services, but they're marching on to Kinshasa. Can they actually realistically march to Kinshasa?
Well, they can try. I don't know the capabilities they have. First of all, I should tell you that M23, the current rebel group that is fighting, the core is M23, but there is a large coalition of other Congolese political forces that came together with M23, and they launched both a political and military coalition, which is multi-ethnic, that is fighting the government of DRC. So although the primary grievance was the fate of the Tutsi community in Congo, the current struggle involves broader issues of governance in DRC. Yes. So, but I just want us to understand where the problem is and where the solution could be. The biggest problem in the DRC is a problem of governance in the country. There is a speech given by Julius Nyerere, which is circulating online, and Nyerere makes his point. He gives his speech in 1996. Nyerere says that the problem of the Abanyamulenge did not start yesterday, and it is a symptom of the wider governance crisis in the DRC. First, I want you guys to know that for most of the DRC, especially in the eastern region, you have an absentee state. But because of the terrain there and thick forests, it means that all sorts of groups can hide in the forests, exploit easy access to minerals, and therefore be able to raise resources to fight whoever they are fighting. Take the example of Uganda. Uganda has a problem with ADF there. Uganda has a problem of ADF. Burundi also has a problem. There is a rebel group that was hostile to Burundi inside DRC. So in 2020, President Kagame approached Tshisekedi and told him, said, Felix, we, your neighbors, at that time Rwanda and Congo were trying to build a good relationship. We, your neighbors, have a problem. For us as Rwanda, we have M23 as a rebel group on your territory. You don't have the military capacity to fight them, but we can help you. We can work together with your army, and Kabila had done this to flush out M23. But also you need to talk to Uganda, work with Uganda to flush out ADF, and work with Burundi. She listened carefully and agreed. But when he went back to Kinshasa, and this is where the deficit in my analysis comes, when he went to Kinshasa, he invited Ugandan troops and Burundi troops, but avoided Rwanda. I do not know the internal politics in Kinshasa, the kind of political negotiations, feelings, anxieties among elites in Kinshasa that may have diverted him. So I cannot speak on the other side of the equation. But so he invites them. If you are Rwanda, what do you think? Because you have, I am the one who made this proposal to you. The others, you are trying to solve the problem, but mine, you are isolating me. Not only that, because of that decision, then the Congolese army openly allies itself with FDLR, which is a genocidal force that is in Eastern DRC. So that becomes a source of tension. If you're a person looking for a solution to the problem of Eastern DRC, there are three things you need to know. One is that a military solution to the conflict in the DRC is neither possible nor desirable. So we need to have peace negotiations. Now, the thing is that actually peace negotiations have been held, agreements have been signed. Some of these agreements are domestic, some are international. In each of these cases, the person who has breached, violated, or walked away out of these agreements without explanation, without justification, without even consulting their peers, is the government of Congo. I give you an example of the East African Community stand by force. Tshisekedi signed this agreement. One day he chased away the East African force. He never invited other East African leaders to say, look guys, because of reason A, B, C, D, I have decided to withdraw. So East African leaders were in confusion, but even I felt another problem. If you are leaders, you met together to solve a problem, and you signed, and one of your peers who signed this agreement walks away unilaterally without justification but without explanation, why can't you call another conference and bring him in? Of course, they never called that conference. So the conference was called today when the situation has escalated. But he boycotted the East African conference himself. Last week on Monday, I was in Kigali. I had a conversation with President Kagame, and part of the discussion I was having with him is how do we try to resolve this M23 Congo problem, because us as Uganda also have anxieties about the issue. President Kagame gave me assurances. He said, look, you can go and inform Uganda. I am ready. Anytime President Tshisekedi calls me, I will take his call. I'll have a discussion with him. I'm not going to pick my phone to call him. He knows why. But if he calls me, I'm open and willing to talk to him. And let me tell you, President Kagame and the government of Rwanda are a strategic partner in any process of solving the problems in Eastern DRC. Rwanda and Kagame, Rwanda as a state and Kagame as a president, they're an important instrument in the orchestra for peace in Eastern DRC. So if you're the president of Congo and you take this belligerent stance where you disregard the decisions of the ICGRC, you disregard the decisions of the South African community, you disregard the decisions of the Luanda process, I should tell you President Lourenco of Angola is frustrated with Tshisekedi. President Museveni on Monday, today is the Thursday, President Museveni had a meeting with the British High Commissioner and the American ambassador. And Museveni told them, I have personally spoken to Tshisekedi, not once, not twice, not 3 times, many times. And I have told him, a military solution is not possible. You need to talk to M23. 2, President Museveni told his diplomats, the problem of M23 is also a problem of citizenship. These are citizens of Congo. You cannot, as a state, declare these people stateless and think that such a decision will be acceptable to the region, the international community, with even the affected people. President Ruto had a similar meeting with the Western ambassadors in Nairobi on Monday, stated exactly the same position. President Lourenco has briefed the Americans, the British, and the French on a similar position, that President Felix Tshisekedi is belligerent. It is difficult for me to know why. Yes. Please hold on a second, because I'm trying to explain to you how all these other regional leaders, I'm giving you information. I don't know why you're not interested in it. So, President Lourenco has expressed himself to Western embassies, saying, look, I'm finding it difficult to get President Tshisekedi to respect his own commitments, whether he makes them domestically inside the Congo or he makes them with his peers, other regional leaders.
I hear you, Andrew, but my question is this a Tshisekedi problem? Because the very similar situation existed with President Kabila.
Well, I told you earlier, it is a Congolese problem in the sense that you asked me a question I had already answered. I told you that Nyerere had given a speech in 1996, I think. He said this problem of Banyamulenge is a symptom of the wider governance crisis in DRC. I can speculate on a few things. If ever I have dealt with the people in DRC, I have never in my life encountered a country whose elites depend so much on rumor to make very important decisions. You know, they can spread a rumor. And I should tell you, on Tuesday, there was a security meeting in DRC. On Tuesday, the DRC military and security chiefs met, and they said Uganda is working with Rwanda to support M23 and all this. So we must kick them out of Operation Soldier. Now, first of all, Uganda and Rwanda are not collaborating on this issue at all. In fact, Tshisekedi and his government were asking Uganda, because we have extended our troops from Beni all the way to Butembo. Butembo is around about 90 kilometers from a place called Lubero, where M23 are. They took that town. So he was asking us to attack M23. For us, we went to Congo as Uganda to fight ADF. So we don't want to extend our mandate beyond what took us there. But to fight M23 drags Uganda into a domestic conflict in DRC.
No, actually, with the war with Rwanda.
I'm coming to that. Yes. You don't jump the ship. In other words, you're asking us to become parties to a domestic political conflict which has been militarized inside DRC. But third, it is likely also to bring us problems also with Rwanda, because M23 is fighting FADC, but FADC is allied with FDLR, which is a militia against the government of Rwanda. Do you see? So why are you trying to precipitate this? When Uganda refused the request to attack M23, which is what the South Africans have been doing, the Congolese sat and said, okay, we need to kick them out of Operation Suja. But now here is a self-defeating problem. If you remove Operation Suja, you're opening gates for M23 to march all the way to Butembo, to Beni, Bunia, and Kisangani. You can imagine how the leadership there, this is a security meeting, they're incapable of seeing the strategic dilemma.
We're hearing that the M23 has now taken Bukavu as well?
They have moved southwards, and I'm sure they could have taken it. You guys think I'm the spokesperson. I am not. But I sympathize. I sympathize. So I was explaining to you, I sympathize.
Your body language is unmistakable.
Of one, we are going to give you a PhD in the study of body language. So, but the point I was making is this. I was trying to, there was a meeting at Munyonyo. I told you earlier, where President Museveni told the same thing to Kabila. So you were saying, is this a problem of Tshisekedi? No, it's a problem of the Congolese state and the governance crisis in DRC. It is, I think it would require somebody to go and understand the political DNA of people in Kinshasa and what it is that drives them to take such self-defeating decisions. I cannot understand in my mind how both Kabila and Tshisekedi. Let me give you an example. Why were there?
We need to get other panelists to discuss. Yes. Ambassador Sempala, let me come back to you. What is this? What is this intricate problem in the DRC? I mean, beyond, you can't just blame leaders in Kinshasa. They must have their own concerns. I mean, Uganda has been involved in the DRC conflict from 1998. It first went in 1990. Yes, 1998.
95.
1995, yes, thank you for the correction. 1995, we have clashes with Rwanda in Kisangani in
1999. We had a clash with the...
Yes, I mean, involvement.
And
we
2000.
went to deal with the ADF.
That was
and
1996.
we came into contact with Mobutu's group, and you remember that's what cascaded into us taking on Mobutu directly.
That's actually 1996. The ADF attacked Bwera.
ADF and they ended up in Kinshasa.
Yes, ADF attacked Bwera in 1996.
Yes.
And the hot pursuit. So Uganda crossing over into the Democratic Republic of Congo, first in 1996. Getting deeply involved in 1998, clashing with Rwandan forces, with whom we had gone in together in 2000.
To remove a government.
Yes, in 2000.
In Kinshasa.
In 2000 in Kisangani, Kisangani 1, Kisangani 2, to this day. Why can't this, what is the intricacy in this conflict?
I think the intricacy is a leadership in Kinshasa that doesn't seem to understand that it is in their best interests to have their eastern DRC stable. So they invite mercenaries, they invite all sorts of people, and then of course it creates a security problem in that region which affects the neighbors in that region, namely Uganda and Rwanda. And so it becomes a big problem. Of course, as I said earlier, there are those who want to swim in troubled waters. But DRC, the leadership in DRC is causing that, that troubled waters which others are swimming in. And I think they need to understand, or they should have learned by now, that there cannot be a military solution. The issue of citizenship cannot be wished away. Because, those who say that if you redrew the borders and then, you don't have these Banyamulengers in DRC, but you would have to cut them off with their land. You can't just chase them away. And if you did that, unless you developed better leadership positions, you would still have the same problems like other countries have.
So
I think Tshisekedi needs to understand, or President Tshisekedi, I shouldn't use this, yes.
And diplomatic language.
Yes, should actually appreciate the fact that he needs to address the root causes of his problems, and it would be beneficial for him because Eastern DRC is extremely rich, but he is not able to control it unless he is able to resolve the security problem in Eastern DRC.
Is the DRC a victim of its wealth?
Well, no, it is not a victim. They are the ones who have caused it to be a victim. It shouldn't be a victim. There are many other countries that are wealthy, but they are managing their resources well. They are managing first of all, you have to manage the people. Your first resource is people. Once you manage your first resource, which is your citizens, then naturally you will be able to exploit your own natural resources better.
What is the value of bodies like the EAC, SADC, AU? Why are they absent from this conflict? Why are they unable to help resolve it?
Which conflicts have they ever resolved?
Exactly. I think they are becoming challenges because, first of all, SADC should be able to do that. But when they got in, they became party to the problem, and therefore they cannot resolve. And obviously, the African Union is a member state organization. So, the challenges you see in the different African countries is also reflected in the African Union. But I believe that actually, if African Union stood its ground, especially the African Union Commission, can actually mediate that problem. That problem is not really a very complex problem.
Honorable Semujo, you saw the language that President Paul Kagame used in reference to his colleagues, the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Congolese counterpart, Etienne Tshisekedi. Are these guys who can sit and have a discussion, you think?
And actually
They can.
Rwanda, Lorenco.
Yes, Lorenco.
On the tree. And Burundi.
I'm just imagining where President William Ruto found himself. I mean, managing such a discussion. Can you get these guys to have a discussion?
The relationship between these regional leaders has been problematic. Rwanda almost has no relationship with Burundi. Rwanda has no relationship with Congo. The relationship between Rwanda and Uganda, I think, is being rehabilitated by the Mwenda group, but they haven't succeeded. Uganda Airline doesn't fly to Rwanda, except when it is carrying Mwenda. And they pretend, yes, and they pretend that we are doing business, we are okay. Let me tell you, recently I was speaking to some EPDF officers.
So what are you saying? Are you saying Rwanda is a common denominator?
And the EPDF officers told me the resurgence of M23 at the time it happened, that actually was because Rwanda was not comfortable with the relationship Museveni was building with Tshisekedi, including doing roads and the trade. I am telling you. And then they were actually accusing Rwanda of arming ADF. That's why I said the pretense is too much. They said Rwanda is arming ADF. They are destabilizing Bunagana because we are constructing roads to do trade with Rwanda, with Congo. And you need to understand this latest conflict and the resurgence of M23, at least in the mind of Ugandan soldiers, something they will not express. Because you see, Museveni, with all his weaknesses, he has conducted himself as an elder around this time. You don't hear him quarrel with anyone, not because he has no problem. I think he chooses to work more through the Mwendas and others. But Rwanda, I think, felt isolated. The point Mwenda made earlier, that Tshisekedi was allowing Burundi to come in and also allowing Uganda. You then ask yourself, because you can blame Tshisekedi, how comes he has left Uganda to stay there, even when the parliament of DRC took a decision that Uganda should go away after Muhoozi's tweets. Tshisekedi didn't agree with the parliament. So he has in a way allowed Uganda to operate in Congo. So we need to find out why Rwanda, why not Uganda and Burundi. So because now you hear that Rwanda has more than 4,000 soldiers who are helping M23, who are walking behind them. So the three issues I have been following, the people who are now, I don't want to collectively characterize everybody as genocide, as Mwenda is doing. But the Hutus who went there, including those who are armed, have remained a constant. And then the issues of ethnicity, and then the issues of exploiting Congo. I don't think both Uganda and Rwanda at this stage and in the future that they are going to tame their appetite for Congolese wealth. Our own shilling here is stabilized by gold stolen in Congo. That's why the shilling is a bit stable. And you hear sometimes the Mwenda's friends who are trafficking gold through the Entebbe old airport, when we insisted they must pay taxes, they told him, now you can traffic through Rwanda and Tanzania. He said, you first wait, I will have a conversation with them. Because we are earning, okay, not entirely earning, because some of the money goes back to Congo through other items. But gold became our number one foreign exchange earner, over $3 billion US. That gold is not from Mubende. People here can pretend. But they told me if you touch them, then they will go and traffic through. So Museveni wanted to do it, I think, the better way by building a relationship, do roads, go as if you are only going for ADF, at least try to work with the Tshisekedi. That partly also caused the problems, as I said earlier. So why are you isolating me and allowing Uganda to be the one coming here? I will also forcefully come. So that's why the solution is going to be very difficult. Because I don't think these mercenaries that were paraded, that they were in Rwanda to fight. Because all we hear is that each rebel group tries to carve out a territory, pick some arms, either it has some traders from Belgium or from any other country. And I don't want to localize problem to Tshisekedi. I think even us here, I don't think there is appetite to end that conflict. The appetite is not there.
Just before I come to you, let me take a message. Darius in Makindye Kizungu says, the problem is not the leadership of Congo. It's the M23 who undermine the leadership of Congo. They were born in Eastern Congo, and no one has been chasing them. President of Congo is right not to listen to different people's advice. It's the primary role of a country to solve its own problems, and once it fails, mediations come in under Section 33 of the UN Charter. Therefore, let Congo solve its problems because they are far from over. And I'll put this question actually to Andrew at some point, because you were an advocate of leaving South Sudan to resolve its own conflicts, especially at the height of the conflict, the clashes between President Salva Kiir and former Deputy President Dr. Riek Machar. Why are you not advocating the similar solution to the Congo conflict? But you'll answer that a little bit later. Uganda's trade with the Democratic Republic of Congo stands at about $800 million at the moment. Well, this conflict certainly threatens that trade. Business people now can't trade. You have a crisis in Kisoro. You have a crisis along the whole borderline.
Our president distinguishes between the position and interests of a country. He says we, the leaders, should understand the interest, appreciate it. And when we do so, then we can take position. You remember when we said we want to do roads, even before we talked about Congo, when we were involved in Rwanda, many Ugandans didn't understand why. Because they said we must have better governance in Rwanda. We are happy today Rwanda is better governed. And because of that, we are having mutual benefits, Uganda and Rwanda. We had issues with South Sudan, including the 2013, 2015. Many people didn't understand. You remember Riek Machar accusing us, calling our president all sorts of names. Now, eventually, he understood his interests and he took a position. And I'm sure you know that we have cordial relations with Riek Machar, and South Sudan is stabilizing, albeit slowly. And because of that, our interests are getting entrenched and better in South Sudan because we are now having formal trade and we are earning from that trade as Uganda. The result of which the balance of trade between Uganda and the respective countries of East Africa is getting better. When we started doing roads, our members of parliament, particularly in the opposition, superficial as they usually are, didn't appreciate. And so our interest does not allow, the interest of Uganda, which we have identified, does not allow us to take positions that are injurious to the strategic interests of Uganda. And so that's why our president, I'm very happy that today Honorable Semuju has appreciated President Museveni's strategic patience. That even when others are shouting, he has been actually for the last 4 years or 5. You remember when Rwanda United closed the borders and kept shifting position why they had closed the borders? They said they were doing the border post, then this, then that. For 3 years, the president of Uganda did not talk publicly. He then instructed all of us, the spokespeople, not to speak publicly about Rwanda's grievances. And quietly, those matters were resolved. Honorable Semuju says they haven't. I think the situation is much better today than 3 years ago. And so, Honorable Semuju, but for me, I wanted to answer, to respond to the question where you said, is there a possibility that M23 can march on to Kinshasa? Probably, yes, if they have capacity. They can, of course, continuously build that capacity and reach there. RPA and RPF did not reach. It took them 4 years to reach that short distance of Kigali from our border. When the war in South Sudan started in 1955, the first Anyanya, the second Anyanya, the intention was not to carve out a country. Actually, the position of Dr. John Garang was not to split Sudan into two. His position was we must remove religion out of politics. For him, he wanted the whole of Sudan. But when it became inevitable, they chose to have a different country. Probably M23 may discover that even if they have appetite for Kinshasa, I don't think the alliance they are creating will hold, knowing what Mwenda himself has admitted on this show. We had those alliances before, when we were dealing with Mobutu, when we were dealing with the Kabila one, it did not stick. I doubt that this alliance made of militias, militias motivated by quick economic gain through trade and so on and so forth, carving out territory for mining, can hold. Probably when they discover that they cannot, and even if they, yes, you can march up to Kinshasa, but can you hold it? Probably at that point they can say no, maybe just having some Kivu provinces are sufficient for us to create a territory and announce like what has happened in Somaliland. Probably they can take that route. which is a dangerous, when we want to build one East Africa, we want to build one Africa and so on, is not the best. But when it becomes inevitable, you never know, maybe they can choose to do so. My hope and our hope, especially as the government of Uganda, is that what Honorable Banimusi said, even when leaders are shouting with each other and leaking their video calls, I want to believe that in the night, in the day, they are making telephone calls, they are sending errands, physical people moving, and eventually President Tshisekedi, President Kagame, the bus stop will come down, and we shall be able to see, maybe in a month or two, or even a year. We don't have to rush. Our president is very patient. It takes nothing in a rush.
Thank you.
It can take two years, but I hope that we shall build a convergence somewhere.
Honorable Minister, I'd like to give you more time, so we'll take a break, and so I can give you, I don't cut you off quickly, but as we take the break, Julius is watching us and says, without repeating the much history of the Rwanda-DRC conflict, I would like to aver that the current invasion of DRC by Rwanda, not M23, is more to do with the move at geopolitical and economic leverage by Rwanda than the stated marginalization of minority. If you remember the timing of the 2022 invasion, fast track the EAC full integration. Where should this start work? Ask Andrew. But I hear this story of a sitting room in one part of the country and in one country and a bedroom in the others. No, but isn't there supposed to be some no man's land somewhere in between?
Were there people at that time?
To Honorable Semuju, doesn't he think ordinary Ugandans and Congolese would benefit from tarmacking roads inside Congo connecting the region? That's Kyelinda.
If we had roads here.
And Ambassador Harold Achema says, what is happening in Goma and Eastern DRC is a disgrace, embarrassing and a monumental tragedy for EAC, AU and Africa. One hopes that efforts to find a lasting, negotiated and peaceful solution to the serious problems facing DRC will eventually succeed. Whatever happened to the pledge AU made many years ago to provide African solutions to African problems? The gallant people of DRC have suffered more than enough. They deserve to live in peace like all Africans. DRC, Rwanda and Africa deserve a lot better. Africa must unite, the sooner the better. A luta continua, victory is certain. Honorable Minister, African solution to African problems. That's what everybody has been talking about. In the DRC, that has failed.
Absolutely, and it's a challenge to the African leaders. Actually, people have been commenting that the President Ruto, who is the chair, was saying he first called Macron, President of France, asking him what to do. He was saying, how? When you are chairing the East African community, what would the President of France do, or why would you call him? So I think it's a challenge to the African leaders, and would want to hear the voice of the African Union, but also the East African community and SADC, and arrangements are being made to have that joint summit, and hopefully the tempers will come down. So we believe in African solutions because these are Africans killing fellow Africans, and it's a shame that we should be unable to sit down and resolve these issues. And moreover, when we examine what exactly is causing these conflicts, these are issues which can be resolved on a round table. But I think Congo is a special case. You know, Congo, they describe it as the richest country on earth probably, but it's a contradiction against the poorest country. And that part explains the challenge in Congo. You see, when you look at the history, right away from independence, the Belgians themselves, much as they physically left, but they never allowed it to leave. Because immediately after independence, they supported Moise Sombe to fight for secession of the Katanga. And then eventually Patrice Lumumba is killed. And since then, it has never been stable, largely because of the mineral resources and other resources available in the eastern part of Congo. So it explains the marauding rebel groups who are there. You look at ADF, when you check the information, you see the head of ADF himself is a big-time businessman in Eastern DRC. He's not even bothered about fighting to Uganda, but a big-time, this is Musa Baruku from Kasese, a big-time businessman in the minerals, in the timber, and so forth. So the reason why there are these huge, many fighting groups is largely they are looking for minerals and other resources. I think where we are now, it should not be a time for blaming, pointing fingers at Rwanda or at the President Tshisekedi. The leaders should come down. And
who's going to call them to order?
The structures are there. If you look at the continental level, you have the African Union, which can call the countries to order. Even as a regional bloc, you have East African Community, it has a leadership. You have SADC, and the Congo, I think it also belongs to ECAS, because it belongs to East African Community, SADC, and the Community for the Central Africa States. But like now the arrangements, so the arrangements now are, because see what has sparked this fight is that the East African Standby Force was there and had halted M23 from advancing on Goma. And President Tshisekedi expected the force to fight. But they said, no, for us, we are here for peacekeeping. And now he ordered for their withdrawal and now called on SADC to bring the forces. Now the SADC forces came for peace enforcement. They went into offensive operation and they were overrun by M23. That's how Goma fell. So what needs to be done is to now show leadership, like President Ruto as the chairman of East African Community. Like they have chosen to work with the SADC because now both organs are involved. They should sit and be able to bring President Tshisekedi to order also to be part of the discussions.
Can they?
And they should, yes, they should.
If SADC wants.
Yes, they should, because he seems now to have probably respect for SADC than ESC. But once you have a combined assembly, he should be able to be brought to the table. But also they should reign over President Kagame to tone down. And instead of pointing fingers on who is wrong, who is what, look at the issues. What are the M23 rebel group, what are they raising? The question of national integration, where they are being told you are Rwandese, go back. But the argument is they are citizens of Congo. And I'm sure if they soberly look at this issue, they should be able to come up with a solution and resolve this crisis. Otherwise, a military confrontation doesn't help Rwanda, doesn't help Uganda, doesn't help Congo, doesn't help anybody. It is the ordinary Congolese who are dying, who are getting injured, who are getting displaced, and it should be a shame that we are spending resources buying guns and ammunition just to kill each other. So I think it's a test for the African leadership. When we talk of African solutions, the world will be watching to see whether we can resolve our own problems without resorting to Americans, to Europeans, or those people outside. They also have their own problems, and they don't have capacity to resolve our internal issues.
You have an intricate position here, Honorable Minister, where if you go back to 2000, you had more than 6 African nations involved on one side or the other of that conflict. Now, within the East African community itself, Kinshasa is saying, pointing a finger at Kampala, pointing a finger at Kigali.
Yes, and we want to categorically say that finger pointing at Kampala is pointing in the wrong direction. Our issue with Congo now is that our UPDF is there for Operation Shuja, like Andrew said. We are not part of that M23 aggression. So I do not know. I think he's just speculating. And the President Yoweri Museveni has been very calm, like we have said, and has consistently advised Tshisekedi that the issue of the M23 is a local political issue, the politics of identity, which should be discussed. He cannot hide his face in the sand and assume those Tutsis are not in Congo. And even if he refuses to go into meetings, that cannot be a solution.
Thank you.
And also the M23, I don't think it will be easy for them to march to Kinshasa, because I think Kinshasa from Goma is like 2,600 miles, very far away. And
The last time they did.
They've attempted it before. EF Babu says people seem to forget Belgium, Europe, US, etc. Why do you think Tshisekedi is aloof? You people think our friends are asleep? Congo is a cash cow of Belgium, Europe, and the US. EF Babu says the destabilization of Africa is Agenda 1. Andrew, as we will be crossing to Afro Mobile in a moment, but is this foreign interests? What is the role of European, American, and other interests?
Well, as I told you earlier, there has been a lot of pressure on Tshisekedi by his peers within Africa to find a political settlement to this conflict. Two, we have seen and witnessed that Congo has no military capacity to defeat M23, and its allies, whom it has called upon, whether they're mercenaries from Europe or South Africa and others, have not worked. So the question therefore is, what is it that gives Tshisekedi this sense of impunity, that he can walk away from national and domestic and international agreements when he has no military capacity? I suspect maybe the Americans or other forces in the international community may have. You are the one who speaks Rutoro. In Rutoro, saying, can you translate that into English? Aina abantu abakumutere kitigi. Kutere kitigi is to give somebody, to puff them up and give them false confidence. Yes, because why exactly is false confidence? Yes. But sometimes the kitigi is not even in Rutoro, it's not false confidence, it is that I'm very powerful. I encourage you to exercise impunity knowing that I will back you up. And I think that could be the issue. But I wanted to come to other things we need to relate to. You know, this Congo problem can also spark off a larger regional conflagration. So you asked me earlier that in South Sudan, I was arguing that they should let a stronger win.
Yes.
Why am I not recommending the same? The situation in Congo is different because it is very difficult to localize the problem of Congo, as you can see. There are many international interests outside of Africa and regional interests that if we allow this wound to keep festering, it is likely to attract many international players and it will make it extremely difficult to localize it. So the conflict may not remain a conflict between M23 and the government in Kinshasa. It may drag Tanzania, South Africa, Angola, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi.
We've been there before, haven't we?
Yes, but now it may drag us into war with each other. So you have a war of all against all. So that is why it's important to have a political solution.